Shalom Akim, all praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kwakadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone. Salutation to you, Akim, doing the work in truth and sincerity. This video is basically going to be entitled, Why Do So-Called White People, the Edomites, Hate the So-Called Black People, the Israelites? And really, of course, the so-called negroes, Indians, and latinos, which are the Israelites. And, I came across this article, and the title says, Why has the U.S. been fighting for 228 of the last 245 years? Now, I'm going to read most of this article, so bear with me. And this starts off. The United States has always regarded itself as an exceptional nation and an example for others to follow. Most Americans think of their country as a beacon of goodness admired around the world. Former President Ronald Reagan once described the U.S. as a shiny city on a hill, teeming with people of all kinds, living in harmony and peace. But the truth is, most Americans won't see themselves in the way others do, because the others around the world see Americans totally different. Where Americans see life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, others see a nation that has fought for unfair interests and unjustified values. Americans have forgotten or are unaware of the people who suffered in helping to build the U.S. into a global power. And they don't realize that their country has almost always been at war. At any given time, most Americans couldn't identify the countries where U.S. troops are fighting on the map, let alone explain why they are engaged in conflict. Since 1776, the U.S. has been at peace for only 17 years. American colonists took up arms against Britain to win independence. European settlers then wiped out North America's indigenous people in order to expand westward. There were estimated 10 million native people living on the continent when the settlers arrived by 1900s. The estimated indigenous population was less than 300,000. So when the devils arrived on American shores, there were over 10 million quote unquote native people. By the 1900s, less than 300,000. So you devils was basically on a killing spree, man. A murdering spree. In an almost unbroken stream of wars and fighting, the U.S. expanded from 13 colonies to 50 states. The U.S. has also annexed or conquered 5 territories. It has military bases in about 80 foreign countries and territories. Since 1776, the U.S. has been at peace for just 1 out of every 20 years. U.S. has only been at peace for 1 out of every 20 years. So it's not even 17 consecutive. It's not even 17 consecutive years of peace. 1 out of every 20 years. That's how long America hasn't been at war. Not consecutive. Why is the U.S. always fighting? And this right here is a good question. Why is the U.S. always fighting? Let me see. It's not really a whole lot of this to go, so I'm going to go ahead and read the whole thing, and then I'm going to get back to this question. Why is the U.S. always fighting? Politicians over time have offered various justifications. The original colonists thought God had granted them a new promised land. The American Revolution was fueled by commercial interests. The violent westward expansion was driven by a sense of special purpose dubbed manifest destiny. And also remember that, manifest destiny, because this is something that Esau used. Many U.S. wars in the last century were justified as protecting democracy from fascism or communism. Sometimes the justification was politics and money, or politics, money, and religion. The justifications have changed over time, but if you look between the lines, the real reasons are always the same. From the beginning, the U.S. went to war for two things. First, to defend or expand its territory. Second, to do business without constraint, often shortened to freedom. Because every time U.S. Goes to war with somebody, they always supposedly fighting for freedom. It's all BS, man. War is good for business, and war is good business, especially for the U.S. Of the past century. Look at the acrimony between U.S., Australia, and France over the submarine deal. Some French analysts are saying NATO may never be the same, all because of a $60 billion submarine deal gone bad. Former President George W. Bush said that Iraq war was about weapons of mass destruction. This turned out to be a big lie. So why did the U.S. invade? Of course, it's about oil. It's very much about oil, and we can't really deny that. John Abizad, CENTCOM commander from 2003 to 2007, said in the interview. It's no secret that the war has been about money and power and the power it represents. By the 1950s, the ties between industry and the military had become so strong that then President Eisenhower, a World War II hero, quote unquote, gave a warning to the public. He warned of an out-of-control war machine that always needs an enemy to stay profitable. And that's the U.S. in a nutshell. That's actually you so-called white people in a nutshell, you Edomites. We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influences, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist, he said. The U.S. loves to talk peace, but all it knows is war. This right here is very important because that's you so-called white people in a nutshell. You like to talk peace, but all you know is war. Can the U.S. change its ways? History suggests not. And no, it can't. As soon as they try to, that's when sudden destruction is going to hit. But the allies of the United States, new and old, should hope against hope that Washington has learned something from its disasters in Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria and Vietnam, and will not drag the world into another costly, pointless, and unwinnable fight. The 78 million Americans born after 2001 have never lived in the United States that has been at peace. After fighting for 228 of the last 245 years, maybe it's time for U.S. soldiers to put down their guns for at least a few years. No, because Esau knows once he puts down his guns, hey, it's over for him. That's prophecy. So why is the U.S. always fighting? Which goes back to the title of this video, why do Esau, the so-called white man, hate Jacob, the so-called Negroes, Indians, and Latinos? Genesis 27 and 40. Matter of fact, Genesis 27 and 37. And Isaac answered, and this is right after the blessing that Isaac had given Jacob. If you want to know the whole story, you should know it already, but if you want to know it, read Genesis, the whole 27th chapter, and it'll give you the whole breakdown. So this is Genesis 27, starting at 37. And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants. And with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And hey, Esau is the father of all you so-called white people, so you understand. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke off of thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning my father are at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob. And that is why the so-called white man hates the so-called Negroes, Indians, Latinos, because of the blessing that he got. The blessing that he got also is the same reason why the U.S. is always fighting. It said, and by thy sword shall thou live. And how is the so-called white man living? By his sword. He's been at war, what does it say? Been at war for 228 of the last 245 years. Only had 1 year of peace every 20 years. Hey, that's Esau. That's living by the sword, man. 1 year of peace every 20 years. So it's not even a consecutive 17 years of peace. So this place has basically always been at war. So this is why the so-called white man hates the so-called Negroes, Indians, Latinos. And they also know that they're going to pay for all the evil that they have done to the so-called Negroes, Indians, Latinos, aka the Israelites, the real Israelites. Pursuant to Obadiah. This is Obadiah 1 and 10. And let's see, Obadiah 1 and 10. Yeah, I'm just going to read the whole point. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. What is the violence that Esau had against his brother Jacob? Well, part of it was mentioned in this article. He went and conquered all of America. You know, what does it say? There were an estimated 10 million native people living on the continent when the settlers arrived. By 1900, the estimated indigenous population was less than 300,000. That is a whole lot of slaughter, man. And that's why, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. That's why we don't look at the so-called white man as our brothers no more, man. And this is really going way back to ancient times. Because, even Esau, you know, when we were being conquered, he said, race it, which raise means destroy. Raise it even to the foundation thereof, you know, roughly paraphrasing, which is destroy it. That's what Esau did in ancient times. And in these times, Esau was just slaughtering us. He had a perpetual hatred for us. In fact, let's look for that scripture real quick. This is Ezekiel 35 and 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate, and cut off from it him that passeth out, and him that returneth. And I will fill his mountains with his slain men, and thy hills and thy valleys, and in all thy rivers shall they fall that are slain with the sword. Hey, this is a prophecy that's coming. You Edomites don't hate blood, and you never hated blood, and you had a perpetual hatred against the children of Israel, and especially during the time of so-called peace, whether it be the native population, the so-called Negro population, or the Latino population. You cut off Jake by slaughter, and you weren't afraid to cut off Jake. You weren't afraid to murder Jake, not at all. Matter of fact, most of the time, you and your people enjoy it. That's why you always have an excuse. Oh, he shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have done this. I remember a case where Jake was running away from the cops, Edomite cops, and he got shot several times in the back. And what did Edomites say? Oh, he shouldn't have been running away. So you Edomites basically enjoy slaughtering Jake. And because of that perpetual hatred, guess what? Hey, blood is gonna pursue you. You're gonna be followed by death. Matter of fact, even though those Palestinians are not Israelites, you still enjoy killing. They are you devils are determined to slaughter every one of them over there. Saw a video yesterday where the devil Israelis shot a Palestinian in the back with a non-lethal round just for the fun of it. Like, hey, that's what you devils are all about. And that's another reason why you devils, you so-called white people, you Edomites, it's another reason why you actually hate the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Indians, Latinos, because we bring the truth out about you. Now, this is Ezekiel 28 and 7. Matter of fact, 28 and 6. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, because thou hast set thine heart as the heart of the power, or as the heart of God, reading it verbatim, because Esau actually believes he's God on this planet. He actually believes that. And you can't tell him one way or the other. No, you're not. You're just an Edomite. The Heavenly Father put over us as a punishment for being disobedient. But you Edomites think it's more than that. Think that you're more than what you are. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, because thou hast set thine heart as the heart of God, behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness. They shall bring thee down to the pit, and thou shalt die the deaths of them that are slain in the midst of the sea. Wilt thou yet say before him that slayeth thee, I am God? But thou shalt be a man, and no God, in the hand of him that slayeth thee. Thou shalt die the deaths of the uncircumcised by the hand of strangers, for I have spoken it, saith the Lord Yahweh. And that's coming, man. It's coming real fast. And this is what Esau is really afraid of. That's why he is okay with being at war all the time. And there is a point where Esau is going to be comfortable after gaining the world. That's why I say, hey, over there in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, yeah, the Israelis is going to get down. They're going to slaughter a whole lot more Palestinians. And then once they feel that they have taken over that land, and this is just me speaking as a man, once they feel they've taken over that land, and the Palestinians aren't going to come back anymore, that's when a hell of a war is going to happen. That's when the real slaughter is going to begin. Because you eat, hey, when you Edomites, hey, when you have filled your belly and you can finally rest after all the slaughter that you've done for the last almost 300 years, hey, the real fighting begins then. That's when the terrible of the nations are going to come against you, and it's coming already in the form of World War III. Every nation has been warning you, and now it's too late to turn back. And at the end of that, you have this coming. Revelations 18 and 6. Matter of fact, Revelations 18 and 5. Matter of fact, Salakia, Revelations 18 and 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you. How did she reward us? By slaughter, by slavery, by just straight up injustice. Reward her as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works, and the cup which she has filled to her double. Slavery, hardcore, for double the time. That's what the so-called white man has coming. Hardcore slavery for double the time. We've been in slavery for 400 to 500 years. Guess what? Esau, you got 1,000 years to pay. And there's going to be no mercy to you. Yes, the scriptures also talk about there shall be no mercy to them that had no mercy. And it talks about how Esau will have no mercy unto them. You've had no mercy, and now you're going to get no mercy in the time of your slaughter and in the time of your slavery. And that, in a nutshell, is why the so-called white man, the Edomites, hate the so-called Negroes, Indians, Latinos, the so-called Negroes, Indians, Latinos, the Israelites. And yes, it's also a proven fact, according to prophecy, that the U.S. and the so-called white man in general are the Edomites. And with that, I hope you Akim were edified. Until the next time, all praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kwakadash. And until the next time, Shalom.